All right, so we have already gone into the split. What's the split? There are those who are going into a consciousness and recognizing how false our whole system, our platform, our society is, how false it is, and how it's based on ego-based, low-frequency service to self. That's it. Doesn't make it right or wrong, but that's how we function. Going into service to others, we're realizing if we do not make this move that I'm going to talk about, then nothing's going to change. But here's what I want you to recognize, because there are things you need to know about the people you're following, all right? And this goes across the board, including myself and yourself. This is important information. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to Landria, Onkka on YouTube, here to help you break through those fears and live an amazing life. Am I too close to the camera? I hope you'll subscribe, because we're going to talk about what we're going through in the next 2 years are going to be very different. So we talked about the tipping point, we're in the tipping point. We talked about the split, we're in the split. So now we are actually progressing, got to the top of that roller coaster, and we're going down. It could be exciting, it could be scary, all the above. I'm going to discuss with you today some things you need to know about the people you are following, who you think are right, and who you think have the answers. And I'm going to give you some suggestions that if you put them into place, you'll be able to make your own decisions about what you do and don't want to believe or actually create. Because what you believe and what you focus on, you create. It's a fact. We're creators. We're recognizing that now. It's a little scary because we're like, okay, how do I do this? You know, we're not used to tapping into our power. Now, I just want to mention, those of you who are entrepreneurial, we're creating Planet Conscious Businesses at Digital Explorers. This is a free webinar. If you go down in the description, digitalexplorers.net, we're changing the world. I'm going to talk to you about that today, because your thoughts change the world. Everything you do changes the world. How you earn changes the world. I wanted to create a platform where we're actually taking charge. We're being responsible for what we produce for ourselves and for others. If we don't go into this, nothing's going to change. We will continually stay in conflict and arguments. There's never a reason to argue. You can have an opinion, yes. That's the beauty of diversity. What am I going to talk about today? I'm going to mention a few people. And this is going to be based on your own beliefs and your gut feeling about where you are in the mansion. The mansion has many floors, from the basement, the dark, stinky basement, to the penthouse. It represents the levels of enlightenment. The mansion represents the game, the matrix we're playing. It is not a punishment. It's not something we plopped into unwillingly. It's something we agreed to participate in. So get used to that. Even if you don't remember it, it's okay. You're here. So do your best. And that's what it's all about, just doing your best. You're not here to save the world, but by doing your best, you actually are. Okay, but I don't want to put that burden on you. It's a lot, right? We just have to pay our bills and have good relationships and be healthy. Well, we can have all of that, and I'm going to talk about that today. I listened to, the reason I'm shooting this video is because I was on YouTube, which has changed their algorithms, and for some reason, across the board, all of these creators, including myself, are like seeing crickets out there. We don't know what's going on, but things are changing. And I don't know what they are, but we're going to see the results of that soon. I don't know if it's specific channels. I don't know if it's specific how long we've been on YouTube, but I'm watching it closely. I looked at all the channels out there. Of course, they're targeting me. AI is targeting my desires, so I'm getting to see a lot of things that I would listen to, archaeology and history, and I like science-based things. And I like interviews like News Nation with Ross Coulter. If you don't know who he is, cool guy. He has some very interesting people on. He doesn't necessarily believe in all the things that these people present, but he presents a wide range of credible people on his show. So one of the people, and this wasn't Ross's program, but I think it was Danny Jones. He's another one. Very interesting guy. Again, he's very neutral. Chris Bledsoe was on his show. If you don't know who Chris Bledsoe is, I think he's a credible guy who was abducted about 20 years ago, and people witnessed this. And since then, he's been visited. He calls in orbs. He does this regularly every day. People go out with him, and he calls in these orbs. This is like demonstrated stuff. This guy isn't like telling us stuff. You're getting to see it. So if anybody tells you, and he said this, where are you getting your stories from? Are these documentable? All right. So we talk about people like David Grush and Lou Alessandro, whistleblowers. If they are connected to the government, if they are still connected to the government, they are not coming out with a clean slate. They are puppets for their misinformation. So what I want you to know about today, because when I looked at YouTube, it was loaded with misinformation. It was loaded with fear. It's massively just insane. And the purpose of YouTube is primarily for the creators to drive traffic to their channels. It's very self-serving. There are channels that do both. They're driving traffic and they have positive messages. Mine is one of them. Obviously, I'm not succumbing to a lot of things because I don't have 1 million subscribers. However, I want you to know something, and that is if you listen to somebody long enough, no matter how much you believe in what they're telling you, you will get to know who they really are. And I want you to start being discerning. What does that mean? Because we're going into our own power, instead of like lemmings, just following everybody off the cliff, we have to start taking control as creators. Now, I listened to Chris Bledsoe, and it was a 3-hour program, so I just put it on in the background because I've heard his story 100 times. But I was hearing different things this time, and I wanted to hear what he had, his responses, because it was a Q&A session. And I have to tell you, the longer you listen to somebody, the more you'll get to know who they are. And here's my message to you today. Everybody walking this planet still has a component of humanity. In other words, there is a 3D, low frequency, dense frequency in every person on the planet, no matter how enlightened they are. That is still a component of their experience. Now, whether they allow that to control them or not is their own choice. But what I heard from Chris, and I realized, as great as all this other stuff is, and he has this beautiful, belief about, non-human intelligence, which is really what he's experiencing, he's very religious. And some of that started to come through, and I thought it was actually fear-based and damaging. And I'm going to tell you something. Be careful of who you put all your faith into. There's only one thing I believe deserves our faith, and that is the creator of all things. That's it, all right? The creator of all things, because that is the ultimate source of light and love and oneness. When you put your faith and beliefs in a person, what happens when they go off into left field? We saw this with Bashar. Daryl Onkka, trying to control us with fear during the elections. Huge mistake. That was not Bashar talking. That was Daryl Onkka. You're going to see people going in the human side of themselves, and some of them are going to succumb to that and maybe go into left field, and I don't mean left or right. I mean going off from what they represent. In other words, their human beliefs, emotions, feelings, and desires will start coming out. We're all still human. So remember, no matter who you put up on a pedestal, still has the same emotions, experiences, challenges that everybody else does. How they handle it is going to determine their awakened state, all right? You don't get out of this. No matter how awakened you don't get out of the human experience. So when he went off into this conversation that really I was like not exactly that excited about, I'll tell you, to be honest with you. And it had to do with, there were some prejudices there. It had to do with men and women and the church. And here's the guy who said he after he met these extraterrestrials, he never killed an animal again. He got rid of his guns, and if there's a snake on the property, he hates snakes. He will put it in a bucket and drive it off somewhere. He takes bugs outside. I do all of that also. He said everything is a living creature and it wants to live just like we do, and it deserves to, and it's equally beautiful because it is of the Creator. I believe all of that. However, he said that he's concerned for his 4-year-old grandson. He says we're going to go into a golden era, but then he says, I'm concerned for my grandson who's 4 years old. Okay, if we're going to a golden era, why are you concerned? And obviously, if you believe in, that everything's planned, that kid's here for a reason, so why would you fear anything? And then the second thing he said is that he went out and bought a pistol. The guy who says, I would never kill an animal or even a bug. Well, what's the pistol for? Chris? You plan on using it? If not, why would you have it around? If you don't plan on using it, you're setting yourself up for somebody else to get their hands on it and use it. If you don't have any fear, which he says, there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. You don't buy a pistol, do you? No. It wasn't for animals. We know that. What's going on? So when I listened to that, I realized he just went off into another frequency, another vibration of fear and 3D. The human dark aspect of fearing the future, protecting me. And he even said a few other things that I'm not going to share with you that are fear-based. But one of the things that he tells that the lady of light that comes and talks to him, supposedly, this woman comes and shares this information with him, and we're going into a golden era. We're going into an era of knowledge. Next year in April, usually around April, she comes to him and shares this information. So he's sharing this information with us, but at the same time, he's going into fear, even though he said the message that she has is that we can change everything. So Chris, if you think we can change everything, what are you afraid of? Because if you're the messenger of good news and empowerment, and this is why I'm here, it's not that we can't go to hell in the handbasket. We can. It's that I want to tell you we don't have to, and that you, right now, can make choices to change that, and it's going to change your life. You're going to have things come to you that are amazing. Right now, no matter what's happening out there. All right? The material world is irrelevant, because once you go into this space that is above and breaks through the fear, you go into a space of empowerment and unlimited manifestation capabilities. The only reason you're limited now is because you don't believe you hold those powers. So if you're going into the fear and the fear of the future and my income and all this other stuff, and so when you go through challenges, that tests your faith. So you think, okay, well, it's not working. Well, you didn't come here for everything to be perfect, to sit on the beach and eat bonbons. You came here for the challenges so that you could go into faith, no matter what the challenges are, and go into this other phase of pure creation and euphoria. Be careful of that. I did a video, I said it can be boring, right? We love the challenges, just not too many of them. So anybody that you're watching out there, no matter who they are, I want you to listen real good and hard. When they start to go into the separation, the judgment, the fear, right, and the self-service, they just stepped into the human realm that no one can avoid. As long as you're walking this planet, you're in it. We're in heavy bodies. Now you can go out of body, you can do anything into the unseen world. You can start calling in orbs, you can get assistance, prayer works, all that stuff. But you cannot operate as a separate entity. You have to know that you are that, and that you don't have to have all the answers, and you don't have to have things your way. That's still ego. Just leave it out there for the best and highest things that are going to happen and come to you. And do not, if you want to tap into that, do not put your faith and beliefs in a person, no matter how fabulous they are. Trust me, something's going to come out of their mouth one day and you're going to say, that doesn't seem right to me. And that could be personal. Maybe the next year you think they're totally right. Like, oh, they said that they're aliens. Okay, I don't believe that. And the next year you're like, oh yeah, aliens visited me. Oh, now I'm listening to you. It's a personal thing. So when he started to pick on sex, the sexes, some choices people are making out there, it didn't sound like an enlightened person to me. It didn't sound like a loving person of all creation. It didn't. Buying a pistol is not my idea of, oh, I'm not afraid, or that we can change the world. It's if somebody takes him out, he knows where he's going. It's fabulous. And what if he's in a position where he has to use that pistol and he kills somebody? You can't do that if you don't have a pistol. And you say, well, then somebody's going to kill you. Yeah, you're going to die someday anyways. You could be protected too. You don't have to go out by accident. You get to determine when you leave this planet. So that's not going to happen unless you plan on leaving. But you're not going to do it in a way that's violent or harms somebody else if you have total faith. You know that that is not in alignment with the Creator. The Creator's, let's just say, the Creator's highest frequency. The Creator is everything. You could go, into a lower frequency and experience that, but then do you really want to go over to the other side that way? Or do you want somebody else to go over to the other side due to your hands? Conflict is something we have to avoid if we want to live in that peaceful world. It is not acceptable under any circumstances. Any. I know you might say, oh no, we're on planet Earth. Yes, we are in conflict because this is how we've always functioned, against one another. And that's fear. So I don't know what's to come, and he will not tell because he says he doesn't know. Why? We all want to know what's the future. I know so many of you are going to tarot card channels, right? And I read these comments. I've actually done experiments. I go to several, and they say completely different things about, Aries or Cancer or whatever, completely different things. And then I read the comments like, oh, thank goodness this is coming. I thought, you're the one that's going to create that. You think this tarot card reader on YouTube's going to determine your future? That program out there of planets is what creates certain challenges and opportunities for us. It's a program. So it is energy. Absolutely, there's something to astrology. You still have free will within it. So one Aries could, make a decision and go to a dark place, and another Aries will turn everything around and go into something amazing. You still have that control. That's why I want you to be careful with all this stuff that you're seeing out there. Lou Elizondo, what a great guy. No. I don't believe anything he says. I don't. He's in Washington. You know what? He's in the Pentagon. Oh, so he's walking around telling so, and then I can't tell this. So you're either in or you're out, dude. Why is he allowed to tell? Because they want him to tell. Same thing with David Grush. Who's he anyways? They are not experiencers. Now we have Chris Bledsoe, who is an experiencer. Firsthand. So is Jake Barber. Let's hope he stays on the straight and narrow. So far he has. He doesn't care about disclosure. He doesn't care about Congress. I don't either. Why are we spending our money so they can talk about the same crap? Since when does our government have anything to do with that anyways? Right? They got their own stuff going on. That's never going to change. It's based on lies. So now they're going to be honest with us? I don't think so. Who are you going to listen to? I think you need to really listen to somebody and do not put them in a basket. Good, bad, right, wrong. This is all meant to be an experience. There's no right, wrong, black, white. So I want you to look at everything, get what you can out of it for you at that time. And again, it may change. It probably always will. So when I listened to Chris Bledsoe, I thought if you listen to somebody long enough, certain things will come out. People can't hide anything from you. You know, you're in a relationship, they were perfect. A year later, like they're doing crazy stuff, and you're like, who the hell are you? You know, right? It's going to come out. Nobody can fake that stuff. And those pieces of them will come out. It doesn't make them wrong. It just means that they obviously gave in to certain parts of themselves that they still have to work on. So Chris Bledsoe, highly religious. And this whole Christian thing, this naming, right? It's like, what, so if somebody's Muslim, they're not okay? That's not how I believe. I don't think the Creator has a religion. It just is, because everybody is of the Creator. We have to let go of all of these lines that we create, these separations, these right, the wrong, arguing. We've got to get rid of it. And if you want to go get a pistol because you're afraid, good luck with that. You know, what you put in the universe, you get back. That's a fact. That's quantum physics. If you're putting fear out there, you buy a pistol, you're putting fear out there, there's a good chance you're going to attract the exact situation that you don't want to. Because you had to have that in your head in order to even think about it, which means you're entangled in that thought of that potential situation, which means you're manifesting it. Be careful with that. And hoarding. If it gets really bad out there, who's going to get nailed? They're not going to go after the person who just has enough. They're going to go after the hoarder who has a whole basement full of stuff. This is how it works. It's an imbalance. So the imbalance goes after the imbalance. Watch what's going on out there. Television, commercials, it's seriously, it's 99% absolutely insanity. All of it. So we have to start making some changes, big ones. And you have to start shutting things down, and you have to be the creator. And those of you who've come over to Digital Explorers, thank you. We're creating a completely different way of thinking about the world and what we're going to present to it, and how we can earn using the internet, because we can reach global audiences to really do good things and get out of those destructive jobs that harm the planet, your health. You've got to make these decisions, my friend, if you want to live that life. And it's a beautiful one, and you can do it. I promise you that. Everyone is equal. If you think you're not, then you're creating that. You're creating disempowerment. And at some point, you're going to realize it's just not true. All right, so I hope you'll share my videos. You're whole and perfect, strong and powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. And by the way, go in my description. That water cleaner, you have a 15% discount if you like the one that I use. All of those products I use do not come in plastic. They are non-toxic. Start cleaning it up, because your body is carrying around this poison, and it's working really hard to get rid of it. Your kidneys and liver. So get it out of your house and stop using plastic. Bite toothpaste is down there. It comes in glass. You refill it. It comes in little tabs, not in tubes. It's non-toxic. All right. And some things aren't going to be absolutely perfect, but there's as far as we can get right now that's going to keep you clean and our planet clean. So start looking at these these offerings that I have and see if you can make some switches, because most of it is actually cheaper, including the water. Do the math. How much are you spending on water in plastic poison bottles? You're whole and perfect, strong and powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Blessings to you. Namaste.